Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Media Hack Vodcast. Each day this week, we've been bringing you the latest gossip and expert views on what's been happening with the SU elections. Each day, we've also been focusing on a specific role and chatting through the key issues to help you decide who to vote for. I'm Ben, I'm from University Radio Bath, and I'm joined by Glenn and Lucy from Bath Time today. So, how are you guys doing?
Yeah, all good, thanks, Ben. Happy to be here for another race. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm excited to be in my first podcast, and I've been enjoying writing the media hack this week too.
Excellent. And each week we've also had a special guest on each episode. And today we're joined by this year's sports officer, Tom. So, Tom, how's it going in your world at the moment?
Yeah, it's good. It's a little weird at the moment. Obviously, watching people gunning for a role that I've had for 2 years, and also kind of living through the nightmare that is a campaign through other people. So yeah, feeling fragile, emotionally fragile somehow.
Yeah, so have you sort of felt like you've been reliving your campaign experiences at this point in time then?
Yeah, honestly, 100%. It's I'm really, really tired and I've got no reason to be. But yeah, it's crazy living through it all and and sharing those same stresses, and obviously like the problem of engaging people virtually is really, really big. And we can kind of we can definitely see that at the moment. So fatigue has set in for a lot of us.
So how do you think you'd have adapted your campaign if you were running for sports officer this year?
I think I'd have to get a TikTok. I'm not a TikToker. That would just be horrible for everyone. So yeah, I'd probably have to learn how to use TikTok. Maybe hire a TikTok advisor in terms of the campaign team. But I'm sure it'd be truly awful. And I'm not sure I'd have it this year. I'm not sure I'd be able to do as well this year.
Yeah, and how do you think you'd rate the campaigns that Chris and Elizabeth have managed to create to be your successor?
Yeah, I mean the campaigns that they're doing really well. You've got candidates with evidently quite different focuses in terms of the manifesto, which is really good to see. And actually on the voter, it makes the decision makes the decision a little bit easier. We've got people who are I won't go into it too much, but actually have a look through the manifestos. You've got different key values there, and so it's actually quite easy to differentiate between the two. But they've both done really well. They've both come across really well throughout their campaigns, and excited to see what the results are tomorrow.
Yes, of course, because today's the last day that voting is open. So everyone who hasn't voted yet, please make sure that you do.
Yes.
Because obviously the SU are running that initiative where for every couple of votes, every 10 votes, they will plant one tree. So where did that initiative sort of come from?
There's another SU that did a similar thing. I think it was last year, and they saw a really good turnout. And obviously, this year we were quite worried about our voting turnout. And actually, this seemed like the right move. Obviously we've got a kind of sustainability strand within the SU strategy, and it seemed to lend itself quite nicely to something like that. I would say even if somehow if you found your way to this vodcast and you don't care at all about the elections, even if you don't care about the elections, you can go on there and you can abstain and you can still be planting a tree or a tenth of a tree.
Yeah, just do anything that you possibly can to help us achieve our goals with that.
Exactly.
I think there's a whale at the end of that, isn't there, Tom? I had to tell my flatmate that the whale isn't in fact me after spending a year in lockdown, but it is something else. He was looking forward to seeing me do a lap of the STV pool, but that's not happening. I think she's called Pepper.
Pepper the humpback whale. Yeah. We're really excited. I mean, we'll see if we get a surge in voters. But yeah, I'm hoping we can get it all the way to Pepper, which I think is 6,000. Or it might be 5,000 actually. I think we might have done the maths wrong there, so it might be 5.
Cool.
If we can even get to 5, I reckon I can have a few conversations. And we can get a humpback whale. That'd be cute.
Nice.
The
Yeah,
lake's going to be a
got it.
lot more different after that.
Right, so I think that we will now move on to talking about some of our issues in focus today, which are to do with the sports officer role. And the first one of those is the club membership side of things.
So, in terms of key policies for the sports candidates, an area of interest for lots of students is bound to be the sports memberships in what we're hoping to be a post-COVID world. Both candidates support the multi-sport memberships that were put in place this year, but interestingly, they're hoping to continue different aspects of these memberships beyond coronavirus. So Chris is advocating for a hybrid cost structure which incorporates elements of the multi-sport membership and the previous individual fee. And he also wants to introduce a 10-month gym membership to prevent you from being tied up into a membership in the months that you're not in Bath. Elizabeth, on the other hand, wants to distinguish from recreational players from those who compete in bucks in order to make the multi-sport memberships financially viable for clubs. She also cares a lot about value for money with the membership, so she's advocating online workshops and resources on the importance of sport, nutrition, hydration and recovery that all members can access, not just bucks teams. So what do you guys think about this? I mean, as Tom mentioned, it's definitely a very different approach. And I think there are elements of both that are going to appeal to those who are interested in sports, those who have gym memberships. I know that I definitely like the idea of a 10-month gym membership, but I'm also really interested in learning more about like nutrition. So yeah, hopefully whoever wins is able to incorporate both policies. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because earlier, like at the start of the week, I interviewed both of these candidates about this, and it seemed to me that like they kind of had a vague idea of what to do with the memberships, but like post-COVID, they hadn't quite fleshed out what they were going to go with as their policy. Like they hadn't quite nailed down how they were going to kind of either continue with a multi-sport membership and also make it more financially viable for the individual clubs.
Yeah, I'm hold my hands up, not a member of any sport club. And I know. Sorry, Tom. I was trying to think of some bizarre instance that I'd actually been involved remotely with one, but I can't. So I really haven't touched bases with any of them. But of those two policies, I think both sound quite good. I would have been more inclined to join a gym in first year had it been a little bit cheaper or affordable over that period. And for me, the idea of I'm thinking of freshers that are coming in next year, completely new to all of this. A recreational membership where it's quite clear that you're not competing in any big competitions, you're not getting involved in any national tournaments or going all over the place, but that you are just doing it for fun and you're not kind of committing yourself to any club. I think that's the thing that would motivate me to join. I'm probably not the prime audience for the sports officers, but yeah.
I'd say absolutely you are. This is one of the big issues that we've had has been around engaging people that don't consider themselves sport members. You've got quite an elitist image of Bath. You come into the facilities, like £35 million facilities, and it's difficult to kind of if you haven't had a background in sport, it's difficult to see yourself kind of working out and training in those places where you've got Olympians and Paralympians training, as well as people from all different kind of all different sports at quite a high level. So actually, the main reason, or one of the big reasons behind the All Sport membership this year, or one of the main kind of byproducts, was around that reduction of loneliness by encouraging people who wouldn't necessarily consider themselves specific sport members into this environment. So actually, what we're looking at is that low emotional barrier, low commitment, like I can bring a mate along with me to this session style membership, where actually you don't have to commit all of your money to a specific sport. And actually the taster sessions almost continue. One of the kind of the big studies that around student loneliness, around particularly in higher education in the UK, kind of isolated a few key things that we need to be working on as SUs. And one of them is those low emotional opportunities to engage in, in communities. Doesn't necessarily have to be sport, but in communities throughout the year. Freshers Week can be such a daunting experience, and actually, the All Sport membership is one of those ways around it. It's interesting to see how, with financial viability, a huge issue, how they're looking at addressing that. And I do think that they're both going to be interesting policies, but we're doing a lot of the scenario modeling as it is, and hopefully we'll have at least a few options for them to kind of to choose from, to guide that membership into the next stages. But it's been, obviously it hasn't been as successful as we wanted it to be, but that's mainly due to COVID and those barriers. But really excited to see that continue, and really excited to see that in both of their manifestos.
Cool. I think that's going to be a really key thing, and that's something that we've seen across the races that we've been chatting about this week. It's really about building that community back up, in whatever way possible. When people start returning to campus, and that that's going to be a massive challenge. But things like this, and as you say, those low emotional barrier ways of engaging, happy hour for sport, maybe. Yeah, maybe sport after happy hour. Maybe that's when I would have got involved.
I used to do that. I used to have volleyball sessions at 7 p.m. and so occasionally I'd go into my training as a first year after a double pint, and although don't tell, well, it doesn't matter actually. Don't tell my coach. But yeah, occasionally did that. You wouldn't, honestly, it ruins your hand-eye coordination. Did it a couple of times and it just never worked. So wouldn't recommend volleyball for that.
Yeah, no surprises there.
Right, so thanks everyone for that last discussion on club membership and engagement. And we're going to move on to our second issue in focus now, which is 3G pitches and other sport facilities.
Brilliant, thanks Ben. So while pitches, pools and dance studios may not have been at the top of everyone's priority list while we've been stuck at home this year, sports facilities have again emerged as a critical theme in this officer race, and they will again become critical to the student community as we all return to campus. Past manifestos have pleaded for everything from an ice rink on the lake to more affordable gym memberships. But taking the spotlight from all of these, calls for a 3G pitch have dominated campaigns for the last few years. This has so far culminated in Tom's iconic campaign, Pitch Please. But to date, no commitment from the university. Please correct me if I'm wrong there, Tom.
We've got, I think the university now, we've got to a stage where we've got really good buy-in from the university, and actually it's a matter of convincing the council. So there are certain rules around Sport England in particular don't necessarily advocate or don't recommend the removal of a grass pitch for a 3G pitch. So right now our conversations are with Bath and North East Somerset Council, cool. University and SU alongside each other. So we've seen good collaboration here. Now it's just a matter of getting out to Bath and North East Somerset. So there has, Pitch Please did do something, I promise.
Good stuff. Typical of me to blame the university, but not them this time. So apologies, Ian, if you're listening.
Yeah.
But moving on, and more recently, a facility for martial arts groups, the Sullys Club, was condemned by the university due to a lack of heating and problems with mould and dirt. Left in this state, the students looking to practice these sports likened the alternative to having a trampolining team train on a hardwood floor. And this year, the 3G pitch has made a return in both manifestos, as well as a new plan from Chris to build bicycle repair sheds for all those students that are eager to pedal up Bathwick, but are being held back by the lack of spanners and wrenches at the top of the hill. And hopes from Elizabeth to construct a new boathouse, which, as an uninformed and athletic northern student, I can only assume is for all the yachts, barges and similar vessels that you southerners keep around. Tom, putting you on the spot with this one, given the financial state of the SU at the moment, is it remotely reasonable to be asking for such significant investment in sports facilities when we already have so much?
Cool. So, I mean, it's reasonable for us to be asking the university. It's not reasonable for us to be, taking money out of our own pocket. The university have recently engaged with a university-wide sporting strategy, which has involved us, myself, and a few members of SU Sports staff. Part of that, I'm hoping, will end up with us having, placing a bit more, essentially working to invest in a few more facilities. I think at this point, we've rested on our laurels a little bit, and we have got some amazing facilities, but we don't see ourselves developing them at the rate that some of the better sporting universities do. 3G pitches are bare minimum right now, and actually considering the capacity for sports like football and rugby that we do need, and actually the thirst for it, it's a no-brainer, and I think the university have kind of come to realize that. I think in terms of the money, that doesn't feel like a problem anymore. The big issues are going to be around convincing Bath, North East Somerset. With the boathouse, just for a bit of context, is specifically rowing right now. So rowing would like to invest in a boathouse as a joint venture between them and a local rowing club. But it's relatively expensive, not something the SU could fund. So we are currently in conversation with the university. Thankfully, Ian has a background in rowing, so we will see if that comes in handy.
Nice.
And for Sulis, sorry, just for the context on Sulis, we've now relocated to Dartmouth Avenue and have created a specialised martial arts facility or kind of combat sports facility there with a brand new boxing ring, loads of state-of-the-art equipment. Really, really happy with that, and with the university for their help with that.
Nice. Hadn't heard about that one, but that's a good move. I guess we'll be put.
It's not something we can push out yet because we don't want everyone to get excited and then for more crap to come along, more announcements.
Can't go in till for another 3 months, but nice to have. Would you have, and again putting you on the spot with this one, if you were to pick out facilities to come up on manifestos this year, would you have picked a boathouse and a bicycle shed? Would they have been top priorities?
So bicycle maintenance is kind of already happening. So it's something that has been, we got given £10,000 from the University Transport Group this year, and are currently working on. So it's basically a bike maintenance kind of facility. It's got wires attached to different kind of spanners, wrenches, pumps, and things like that. But we're looking at kind of placing those over the summer. So it's a great idea. Unfortunately, it might already be done by the time Chris is in place. But that's fine. And actually, regardless, the manifesto at times can just give that indication as to where the values are, and something around sustainability and increasing that accessibility for active travelers is huge. It's just that in place of that, he might need to come up with another thing to push through. But in terms of prioritizing, active travel, I'd absolutely say is an important one, and it's one that I've really enjoyed working on this year. Encouraging more people to brave the hill. And finding new ways of doing that is going to be really, really vital. Obviously, we've seen the electric scooters as well. So there's some more kind of enjoyable ways of getting up the hill now. In terms of preference for facilities, I think Founders Hall and the kind of the limitations that we see with the sports training village mean that we can't. I think basketball comes to mind, and actually. A few of the sports, futsal as well. A few sports can only be played in Founders Hall, and actually it means that the clubs are kind of limited in size, or can be limited somewhat in size. And so if I was going to push anything through, it might be another basketball, futsal kind of facility, potentially outdoors. But that's just me, and it's all good.
Nice. We'll see if they might. Well, Chris might sneak that one in place of the bicycle sheds that you've already sorted out for him. But yeah. But Ben and Lucy, any thoughts on facilities? Anything you guys think's missing or not?
So the one thing I think with the bicycle repair sheds, I think that that's a really good idea, and if that's already underway, then brilliant. However, I think that the most common thing to happen with your bike is usually like a puncture. So in which case, if you have a bicycle shed, but obviously, as Tom said, you won't be able to take the spanners away and whatnot, it seems unlikely that you'd be able to have spare like wheels or anything, or like any sort of tape to do them up, because all that has to be paid for. Like you'd need, like, this is tires, I mean, not wheels. Yeah, you'd need something to fix the actual puncture itself. And I wonder where that would come into it, because I don't really think you'd be able to just have like some sort of vending machine with it coming out. I mean, unless that was possible. But I sort of think that the bicycle repair shed is a really good idea, but there might be a little bit more to it in terms of like the most common things to go wrong with your bike.
There are actually vending machines that do that kind of stuff. It's really weird, but yeah, absolutely. That's not something that's being considered yet. Really good point.
Yeah, I think with the candidates and the facilities they've chosen to focus on, like, it does kind of show their overall priorities quite well. So obviously we've said about Chris's bike repair sheds, and that kind of ties into his campaign's overall focus, which is on environment and sustainability. Some of the other policies might not be as effective. So I know one of his is to try and get clubs to coordinate all their fixtures so they all travel to the same place on the same weekend or something. That sounds very ambitious. And also the one about trying to increase vegetarian and vegan options on campus. We tried that. It lasted 18 months. And then for Elizabeth, I know she came to the university as a rower, so she's probably got quite almost the rowing lobby on her back, saying, right, can you put in a new boathouse for us as a sports officer? So yeah, I think that kind of ties into the campaign trail at large as well with the facilities. So it's quite a good representation of that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good stuff. Unless anyone else has got more to add on facilities, I think we had a good chat through there, and we'll probably call it there.
Yeah,
awesome.
Great.
Cool.
So yeah, thanks to Glenn, Tom, and Lucy for their time and insights today.
Cheers.
And
cheers. Wasn't sure if we were supposed to speak there, but
yeah, you paused a little bit too long.
Yeah, I did a bit. And there, well, I mean, in my outro, it says that there will be another Vodcast tomorrow. There will, but it will be live from the SU from 5:30, and that will tie in with the results announcement at 6 p.m. And today is also, importantly, the last day that you can vote. So make sure that you get your votes in now while you still can, and help us try and adopt that whale.